Hello and welcome back to track 2 of the Pure International Conference for the Americas, Europe and Africa. My name is Eiken Friedrichsen and I will be the moderator for this track today. As you probably all know by now, we're happy to take your questions. You can submit them via the live Q&A button, and then there's a little box at the right-hand side of your monitor. And time permitting, we will try and answer them at the end of the session. And now I have the great pleasure to introduce Henrik Steen Rasmussen. Henrik is one of the founding fathers of Pure. He worked with Pure and with Elsevier for many years, and he is now head of solutions for AT-CRIS, which is an independent research information system consulting and implementation company. Today, Henrik will be presenting on how to make your data security officer happy. Thank you, Henrik, for your presentation. The mic is yours.
Thanks a lot, Eiken. Yes, as Eiken said, I'm from AT-CRIS, former longer-term member of the Pure team and one of the founding father of the product. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to make your data protection officer happy based on some German use cases, and also give you some tips on improve the data quality in your Pure system. First, just a little bit about AT-CRIS. We are founded in 2016, 100% independent and owner-led company. We support universities, research institutions, and product providers. We have more than 30 customers in Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, Austria, Thailand, and South Africa. We are a consulting and implementation partner for CRIS, Campus, PSD, LMS systems, and more, and have operational experience in sales, implementation, and development within the product environments of CRIS systems. In total, we are 12 employees, 11 in Karlsruhe, and me in Denmark. This is the entire team, and this is what a normal workday looks like at AT-CRIS. No, of course not. This is from our celebrations of our 5th anniversary in this summer in 2021. Before I head over to the main topic, I want to give you some tips on how you can improve data quality. Thomas Gurney already came up with some definitions of data quality in his talk on the control center. But here's the definition from Wikipedia. So data is generally considered high quality if it's fit for its intended uses in operations, decisions making, and planning. And here, this is the important part. Moreover, data is deemed of high quality if it correctly represents the real-world construct to which it refers. I'm going to give you 2 constructed examples from Pure portals. This is sometimes shown to the public on a research portal. And either this person is not active researcher or the system is not up to date. It might be a new member of staff or that the researcher or somebody in his behalf haven't had the time to add information. But as a visitor to the site, how would I know the correct answer? This information is not only useless for the visitor, it doesn't provide any value for the researcher, nor for the institutional branding and the reputation at the university of somewhere. Another example, and this is very common on activities. A lot of activity records are good examples of information that is almost useless for a visitor. This activity is meant to inform internal stakeholders and not the public. All you can derive here is the researcher's whereabouts in the beginning of April 2019. And if you're really knowledgeable in the domain, maybe you know the topics that was covered at the 16th ISPRA conference. This is really an opportunity for the researcher. With a minimal extra effort, he or she can add the slides and maybe a short description of the activity, and it will then be worth sharing. In my view, activities like this should not be made public. It's internal information and for management reporting and not of interest to the public. I'm going to give you 5 steps how to increase the data quality in your Pure environment. First, you need to define quality. What defines and constitute content worth sharing, and what disclose valuable information about skills and expertise. Next, you need to share the quality definition with your users. Third, create a report in Pure and find the content that does not meet the quality definition. Unpublish this content that does not meet the quality definition on your portal. And inform your users in an email that their content has been unpublished. Guide them on how to meet the quality definition that constitute content worth sharing, and let them republish the content by themselves. If you're afraid of the reaction from grumpy academic staff here, do a pilot and measure the effect of the pilot before going full scale. And I recommend that you repeat step 3, 4, and 5 every 3rd month, so that you can see that this initiative is actually helping. So these 5 steps will increase the value of your CRIS. It will make a contribution to open knowledge. It will strengthen the reputation of your institution and help the researchers to increase the impact and outreach. There's no hocus pocus here. You can do everything yourself, but we can also assist you on the quality definition, setting up the report, and automate the routines needed here. And best of all, you do not have to do the heavy lifting. Over to the main topic, dealing with personal identifiable information. So as Pat mentioned in his opening speech, that Pure is now compliant with this ISO standard here, and that's great news for you that you can rely on that. I picked 3 topics out of that ISO standard I think that is important here. One is confidentiality, limit access to information, data, and systems to people who have a legitimate need. Second, integrity. Ensure that the information, data, and systems we have are consistent and reliable. And finally, availability. Ensure that the right people have access to information, data, and system when necessary. So I'm going to show you some of the prerequisites to go live with a CRIS, at least in Germany. First, you need to have a mandate, a legal regulation either by state university law or by university law. The regulation states the purpose of collection personal identifiable information and the kind of PII that is needed for the purpose. Next, you need to define how the CRIS will be used. You need to document the personal data usage, documentations of roles and rights, who have access to what, and documentation of data flows from and to the CRIS. And then you need to define the personal rights also, create GDPR reports and implementation of subject matter request reports, so the rights of access allow an individual to obtain records on their personal information within CRIS. You need to implement the retention policy, so the concept to delete personal data versus duties to report, document, and inform. And finally, the right to be forgotten, being able to delete or unlinked unrelated content from person records. All this have to be negotiated and agreed and signed off by the staff council at the university, consulted by a data protection officer, and described in the data processing agreement. So how do we help German universities to accomplish these goals? AT-CRIS has developed a framework and a service that help university define and document what is needed to go live with their CRIS. So our framework looks like this. So first, identify the use cases for which personal data are required. Define the personal data involved per use case. Identify types of staff, and identify exceptions. Before I go into details on these 4 steps here, I just want to give you a quick note on KDSF. I guess a lot of you have heard about KDSF also on former Pure conferences. So the KDSF, the research core dataset, is a huge trigger these days in Germany for acquiring a CRIS. It's a German specification for the standardization of research information and represents a set of rules for harmonization and standardizations of research reporting at institutions, and was recommended by a Science Council in January 2016. Another statement by the Science Council from October 2020 deals with possible uses, further development, and disseminations of KDSF. So the first step here for us is to identify use cases for which personal data are required. And I'm sorry, this is in German. I hope you can at least understand some of the wording here. But first you need to define the use cases. It's grouped in top-level use cases and specified in detailed use cases. In this case, based on standard KDSF reports. Next, you need to define the person groups. It's grouped in academic staff and in a non-academic staff. And as you can see, some of the reports in KDSF also include non-academic staff. Step 2 is to define the personal data involved per use case. And again, on the left-hand side, we have the use cases, top-level use cases and detailed use cases. And on the right-hand side, we have the definitions of personal data required to fulfill each use case. And as you can see here, it's on attribute level. So first name, last name, date of birth, gender, and so forth, where you map detailed what is needed to fulfill a use case. Step 3 is to identify the academic staff, non-academic staff. So identify staff via person groups in your AT-CRIS system and do the mapping against personal data to the CRIS and to KDSF. And as you can see here, some of the employment types is valid for the CRIS, but doesn't go into the KDSF reporting. And finally, you need to identify exceptions. For some groups, we only need to extract some data that allow account setups. So for instance, persons that need to work with the CRIS, publication validation, supporting researchers, and etc. In the end, this is how the complete document looks like. So now you have documented the entire uses of personal identifiable data in an understandable and transparent format. These worksheets will then be used as technical instruments in the implementation. And the copy can be attached to the data processing agreement as an appendix. So you can use it and update the document whenever you add or change use cases down the line. And the result will be a happy data protection officer. So now we just need to implement what has been agreed here. So the integration, we are using an ETL tool for the integration to extract data from your source systems, transport the data, and load the data into the CRIS system. We use the application Pentaho Data Integration, also known as Kettle, to build the integration. It's open source and free to use without any cost. Next, the setup. We can set up the integration to run as a one-off import or as a scheduled job. And on the delivery, once the implementation is ready and signed off by you, AT-CRIS will deliver the actual Kettle component to you so that you can maintain it yourself or reach out. So our technical solutions looks like this. I think you are quite familiar with diagrams like this. So we have the AT-CRIS system on the far left, goes into the personal data, it's extracted into the filter. But what is unique here is that we, on the definitions, we just defined together with the staff councils and it's signed off by them. We add these into the filter to ensure that no data goes into the CRIS and if you have a BI tool on top of that, that is not agreed and signed off by the staff council. In this example, we can load the entire complete set of personal data to the CRIS. And if you have a BI tool on top, we can load pseudonymized data for BI reporting. On the technical level, the input can be Excel, XML, web service, API, databases. And it's a fully automated process where we read, connect the data from the source, apply controls and definitions, and prepare and load the data into the CRIS in the product-specific format. Sorry. So this is how we do this, how we have done this for German customers on personal identifiable data. And I can assure you that all parties, not just the data protection officer, will be happy with the solution. And this is just an example of data integrations. It could be a legacy import, a different synchronization CD from your finance system, data cleansing, etc. Here at the end, I just want to give you a brief overview of some of the other services we do at AT-CRIS. So we have developed a framework that we call 6 steps towards a successful product implementation for universities that are considering a new CRIS. We help them define their requirements. We are not involved in the actual purchase of the software. We can guide them, help them, but we are not involved in the decision here. And then we again can help them in the implementation. And for this audience, I want to tell you something about what we can do when your CRIS is live and operational, helping you to closing known gaps. Some of the existing services where AT-CRIS can help you. We can help you complete outstanding implementation activities like integrations missing or not running, missing data migrations or something not finished. We can help you change the running system, so change the org structures. There's massive changes in your org structure at the institution. Strategy changes like new research focus, new requirements or changes to business processes like GDPR, data management plan, data validation processes. We can help you on new functions in your CRIS and that need to be implemented at the institution, and help you on changes in your IT landscape like new HR system, finance, repository, and we can build a Vivo portal on top of your data. We can also help you improve the overall situation based on audit feedbacks and results, complaints, known issues like data protection issues, data security issues, and incidents. Finally, I just want to introduce our new service that we call 360 CRIS Review. It's a service for live system where you can get an independent expert view on the usage and your operation to identify optimizations and potentials in your system. Some of the benefits and outcomes for you is that you can optimize your CRIS operation, you can use it for stakeholder management, resource planning, roadmap planning, inform research information management decisions, process adjustments, and identifying gaps to be closed. That was my talk today. I'm happy to take questions, and also you're welcome to come and say hello at our virtual booth in the Expo Gallery. We have a break just after the session or after the conference wrap up at 6 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you, Henrik, for this very interesting presentation. Of course, it's especially interesting for me since I'm kind of belonging to the affected group of German users of CRIS systems and German data protection laws. But I really like the idea of having a spreadsheet that on the one hand is used to gather the use cases, gather the information which shall be used, and then using it at the same time as a filter. But that's the thing. It's more the part of documenting. What is complying with that documentation? Um, you said by the filter you can guarantee that. I think looking from the pure perspective, as long as you mm, say sync only and nobody can change the person entries, otherwise people might enter whatever they like.
Yeah,
So are
that's right. So
these
you need to have something in place where it's sync only, so that the different attributes cannot be changed within Pure.
yeah. And on the other hand, do you have any tips or hints? Um, one thing is documenting what you're doing, and but the other is interpreting what is allowed or what is not to. Um, if there are or if there should be differences in interpretation between a vendor and a customer, or even within a university, um, do you have tips where to turn to, and if it's only as a mediator? Um, because I know, to give you an example, what I mean, that in Schleswig-Holstein, the university law is kind of unclear about the use of CRISes. So one
Mm.
data protection officer says, "Okay, it's great," and the other says, "No, we need another specification," which hasn't put any problem to neither of the universities affected. But
Mm.
have you heard of other use cases where they pulled in some third party or something like it?
So I have to admit, I don't know about other use cases here, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that the team at AT-CRIS have dealt with a lot of these use cases. So please uh, come and visit us at the booth and talk to my colleague Andreas. You'll be at the booth also, and they have dealt. Yeah, you have seen it yourself also. I can. It's especially in Germany
Yeah.
where it's difficult to get the staff council or the data protection officer to sign off on anything.
Yeah, but that's a good idea, just to have a visit at your booth and talk to the
Yeah.
colleagues, which are specialists who are specialists. And then there's another question concerning the quality requirements. If you're setting quality requirements, or if you unpublish things in the quiz, will that not perhaps increase the risk of researchers' engagement in the quiz system, since they are meant to work more for the quiz?
Yeah, I don't believe so, because right now, if you look at activities in Pure, I would say more than half of them are useless for a visitor. And I guess it is because there has not been a definition of when should you make an activity visible. So if you guide the researcher instead and say, hey, if you add the slide set here, or a good description of the data, it is in fact useful for a visitor. So it's not to harm the researchers, it's to help the researcher here.
Yeah, and then I think we have time for one more questions. One more question. It's how do you find middle names with the various naming conventions in different countries? I think that's belongs to the data quality part of your presentation.
So how we find middle names. So I know we have had a long discussion within the Pure teams, within the Pure team, if a middle name should be present on a personal record or not. And I also remember that I brought it up to AT-CRIS at some point in time to see if there should be a middle name in a person profile. And the agreement at that point in time is that middle name is part of your first name. That is what it is in most countries. So my name is Henrik Steen Rasmussen. Steen is a middle name, but it is in fact also part of my first name. So I guess we don't have any special rules for doing that. That's more or less up to the university how they want to put in the middle name here. But we have had long discussions in my pure tenure about if we should add a middle name or not.
Yeah, I think perhaps it belongs to this think of how to define data quality, which I think is a very good tip. This comes down to the small things. How do we handle middle names at our institution? Or
Yeah.
how do we handle activities if they are not providing a minimum of information in concerning the portal or concerning the CRIS instance at all? Yeah, I think there are no more questions at the moment, though there's still some time left. So if someone would like to come up with another question, just go ahead. Otherwise, as Henrik said, you can visit him and his colleague at the Expo Gallery, which will be open after this session for about half an hour. And after that, we meet again here for the next look for the next presentation, which will be on insights from the global survey and data quality in Pure. Thank you very much, Henrik, and bye to all of you.
Thanks a lot for listening in.